First News with Keeler in the morning on WIBX and WIBX950.com.
Joe Biden makes slips, of course. I mean, did Donald Trump? Of course. Did George Bush? Did Barack Obama? I mean, they all did. I mean, but to put, to really go that far and to that extreme at a time when we really need, I thought we were healing or trying to heal.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't bode well because, there are people who look at that, and whether it's the president himself or his staff, and President Trump President Trump was, spot on in that stuff. If a congressperson, senator, whether it was his party or the other party, I mean, that became a target. So,
and he'd tell you,
he'd tell you, or he'd call it out publicly, tell you. So, yeah, it doesn't bode well, especially when let me go back to my statement of the progress we made here as a region and an area, and at a time when, let's go a step further, reapportionment is on the horizon. What happens to our seat? We've had a congressional seat, primarily with Oneida County at the forefront of it. I can't even state the years. I'd be wrong. I know it's 40 at least, if not 70. I mean, the danger now of reapportionment with losing
by what, 70 some odd people?
By 89 people, I think it was. And the danger of an office that's flipped, and now someone who's throwing those bombs again. Where does that put us in terms of what our representation will look like in the future?
Yeah.
It's all disheartening in there.
I guess the problem would be it doesn't help, and it is a letter that will go that is completely. It's not even a wonder. Boy, I wonder what kind of effect this letter has. It is a letter that will accomplish nothing. There's no way he's going to say, I'm going to do a. So you're not going to accomplish anything. Only something negative could come from it. Why sign your name to it?
Well, and look, we can, as someone who I thrive on history and especially the presidency, I really love all the intricacies and the history of it. I mean, do you really think you're going to know the exact answer? And do you really believe the other one was 30 for 30? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess, those are things that.
Have you ever seen a president get hit in the face with a cicada before? That's a first.
That is a first.
That is a very good. Where was the Secret Service on that?
Who do you blame? Do you blame is Biden not fast enough to duck, or is it the Secret Service?
He's not nimble enough.
Who do you blame?
Well, you remember, you still remember, and look, it became fodder for Saturday Night Live when Gerald Ford fell down the steps of a couple times, not just once. And,
the first time it didn't make Saturday Night Live. The second time, he apparently always trips going down the stairs.
And George was George H.W., who threw up at a state dinner in Japan.
Oh.
I thought you were going to. The cognitive test should be the George W. Bush duck the shoe. Can Biden? Can you duck two shoes from a member of the public? Yeah. Okay, you're good.
Well, and how about that? Obama wouldn't stop shaking your hand that one time on the tarmac.
This is true. That's true.
And I've almost forgotten about Dan Quayle, right? The spelling stuff and the whole.
Was that the potato?
The potato.
Yeah.
Oh Lordy!
And then I remember the other one. Quayle was it was the saying about the Negro College Fund, which was in place in terms of the mind is a terrible thing to waste, and he fumbled that statement, and he was crucified for that one.
I don't remember. I have to look that up.
Look that one up. I mean, I'm sure it was him.
And you remember too, who was I can't even think of his name now, but he was the front runner for president, and he had a moment where he was yelling out all these states and yippee, and he said yippee.
Yeah. Who was that?
That's what's his name? Dean. Howard Dean.
Howard Dean. Yeah, everyone's like, wow, he's our guy. And then
a whole different.
They might have been looking for an excuse with him.
I think they were, because his career just ended immediately after that.
It did.
So it's crazy.
It did.
Well,
and it's interesting the careers that ended on those things, but today They don't.
Cuomo.
Who was the Democrat that was out on the boat and his wife was dying of cancer and
that guy.
he was running for office?
John
Hart.
Gary
Hart.
Yeah.
It was Gary Hart, not
John
John Edwards.
Well, he was another one.
I don't know what he did though.
John Edwards. He
had
had
an affair?
with his
Oh,
and his
he
wife
did.
had cancer and all that.
Well, the reality is for Gary Hart, it just again, boom, career over.
Yep.
And today, it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. It's really quite interesting. All right. Well, anything else? Can we fight about something?
Look,
get a good
go
fight going here.
Yeah, I think Jeff's got something.
Well, I want to ask where we are going forward, because the idea was, from the county's perspective, was that it was 60-40 with 50-50, 60-40, whatever, but you had a partner in paying for this garage. What does this do to your budget going forward? Can the county be the sole funder of that debt funding going forward?
Because we're not the sole funder, and that's where that's where the lost in translation, I guess, comes a part of this too. And in terms of trying to explain, although when you hear some of the councils, and I've heard them in different outlets as well, say, well, the county's going to keep all the revenue when they come in, and they're going to do this. So that's why they don't, we've never had that discussion, of a complete discussion, because when we started this in 17, it was, the MOA, first of all, the Memorandum of Agreement, was outlining a blueprint of how we're going to get to where we're going to get. And it had everything in it. And it had a lot of different things in it. I mean, not everything, but it had a lot of different things, not just the garage. Mm-hmm. But, a lot of that has evolved over time, because the garage was bigger in that agreement. It's gotten smaller because we did a parking study, an evaluation of what was actually needed. Does anybody know that? I don't know, because I've never been able to share that. I know the mayor knows that, because we talked about the size of the garage going from, in that MOA, it says 1,650 spots. It's now 1,050 spots. So there are differences in there. So the other thing is, who's going to maintain the garage? Originally, the hospital said they would. We decided we would. So now, when you look at the debt service, the way the debt service was supposed to be divided 3 ways, the hospital is going to pay. I mean, they're not getting this for free. And then, to the credit of MVHS, I mean, there were 2 different scenarios. Do we build it, let them operate it, at which time they have all the responsibility and we pay the debt service? Or do we do a true 3-way in which we all pay, but we maintain it? And that's what we came up with. Mm-hmm. So the hospital is going to pay a big chunk of this debt service on an annual basis because of their usage. So now when you subtract out their number, which right now is approximately, I want to say, around 800,000 annually, 850, when you subtract out their number, then what's left becomes 60-40. So it's not 60-40 of this major debt service, which they have to which I don't know that, I mean, they hear, but they don't hear, which, again, we're past that. The other point is we're going to maintain it. So is there revenue? Well, look, this goes back to the whole story we've had with Nexus and everything else. Building something and just saying, we're going to build it, we're going to pay for it. Okay, who's going to maintain it? Who's going to pay for the lights? Who's going to plow it? We have snow here in the winter. Who's going to plow? Garages still get snow in them. I mean, even though they're open, the roof and other things have to be maintained. So who's going to maintain it? So yeah, we're going to, I heard someone say, well, they're going to keep all the money. We're going to maintain it. You want the reward without the risk. I mean, at least on their end. So the hospital is, so the $10 million certainly offsets a big piece of this. And does it offset all of what the city was going to pay? No, it doesn't. So it still leaves, again, we're going to have to see what the final cost is. My concern now is that all of this delay in terms of where we've gone on design and bid is going to rise the price, because we've seen what is happening in the economy today go buy wood, go buy steel, go buy, pay for concrete. And those costs are rising.
Can I ask you about
I don't know.
The car rental place, which one is down there? Enterprise. So the thought is that that they have an agreement that is a contract that goes out another 3 years.
It's a lease, I think, for another 3 years maybe.
So if that's the case, how does that work with them in a domain? Let's say you win it. Do you still have to honor that contract with them?
No, the contract with Enterprise is with the owner of the building.
Okay.
So the building, those are two separate issues. And I even talked to Enterprise and directly and said, look, you're kind of in the way here.
Right.
And, you got put in a bad situation. And we even tried to talk to them about going into the garage.
I see.
Which I think would be a great asset too, and would help. It fits in with the whole economic development and tourism and Nexus and all the other pieces that would go there. And the hospital itself. But so that's why I said, look, it's a separate thing because it doesn't take into account the contract that was entered into, and it shouldn't have been. And I said, you kind of got. Well, we were told we were told the hospital wasn't going to happen.
Wow.
One other clarification on funding: the URI. Are you saying the county's taking all $10 million for the garage now?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I guess that
there was
lost
another,
in
but
translation.
in the statement from the city of Utica,
Last
I want to
time.
clarify. There's two things because they talk about $6 million in the garage.
Yep.
If you read that,
Yep.
The $3 million that's in the part of this 10.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about another 3 that was referenced in the MOA. Those don't exist anymore. Those are, and a piece of it, if you look at the MOA, there is a reference to other grant money. If you recall, and I do because I was with ESD at the time, in 2005, then Mayor Julian got a bunch of money from the state and from the feds to build a garage, which never got built.
Mm-hmm.
Of that there was $5.25 million from the state. It was a 3-way agreement between Governor Pataki at the time, Senator Meyer, Assemblywoman DeStito. Each of the 3 houses, the executive and the Senate and the Assembly, gave $1.75 million, which so totaled $5.25 to the city to build a garage. It never got built. It never got spent. It lingered there for a while, and state money will hang around for a little while. It hung around for a number of years, and because it was in a specific fund. And at the time and you could have Senator Griffo confirm this, and at the time Assemblyman Brindisi, they swept that money and we moved it over to the odd. They moved it over to the odd in the first round of the pieces.
Oh, okay.
So their money, the Senate money and the Assembly money went over to the auditorium for the first 10, and then I got the other 6.5 or so from the governor. So that's how we did the first renovation of the odd back in 2013 for the Comets. That left that 1.75 in the pot on the executive side, and then if you don't spend it, Utica could have used that to fix their garage. It didn't, and so 17. It was still hanging around. I even wrote a letter to the state asking about it. Got a response back that
the money's gone. Okay.
So those funds don't exist.
All right. Anything else? We good?
We could talk for days. Obviously,
the full $10 million that the city of Utica got for this.
No. You got two different things. I think you're thinking of the DRI.
Okay.
Remember,
yes.
We get into these acronyms are
Yes.
confusing for everybody out there.
Because I was like, wait, that's big news. Well,
that's a downtown initiative, which includes money for other
That
entities.
wasn't pulled, right?
No. That includes money for other entities, not just the city in terms of that. There is some money to fix Washington Garage in that. The URIs, the upstate revised, that was leftover piece from, remember the governor did a big thing a few years ago. So there was $10 million left for that. That's what was swept.
Comptroller Morehouse saying county's budget is $400 million, city's $70 million. That means we should contribute 17.5% to the garage. I said this when we met with Howard Zucker, and I stand by it now. When I am mayor on January 1st, 2024, I will stand by that 17.5%.
There's an announcement today.
There's an announcement.
Wow. We've had some hints this week. But that's the first time he's actually referenced it.
Yeah.
William Morehouse.
If you're not going to make news this morning, we'll rely on you. Okay.
We gave you the chance.
I wish I had something bigger.
Morehouse stepped in.
He did. I wish I had something bigger.
All right.
Bigger to step into.
Okay.
Good morning, Mr. Morehouse.
Thank you.
I do believe that I will have one final question because it seems that Bill is never. Bill will always talk to us when we ask. He never shies away. It seems like Bill. You'll have a better opportunity for negotiation.
I like Bill.
And how is something like this done when you deal with Jackie Iso in Rome? Is it different?
Look, yeah, I think the question here is, let me just say one thing before we wrap up. So, this question about walking away from agreement really sends a bad message. I mean, it sends a bad message to the county, like I said. So, am I going to enter into another agreement again on this?
I would hope not.
I would hope not,
yeah.
and I would have not to. But here's a kicker: about a week ago, or last week, while this was going on, the city asked us, and I have it in writing. The city asked us if we would pay for some sewer work that they needed to get done, to the tune of about $200,000 to $300,000, and then they would pay us back. Do you think I'm going to entertain that right now? Given the circumstance. So, in terms of working with Mayor Izzo, we have a great relationship, and we haven't had these kind of projects, but we've worked together on. I mean, Griffiths is a perfect example of city-county partnership. In terms of what we assumed in terms of properties and what the city has assumed in terms of responsibility.
Well, and one of the things
that's something that has evolved over the years and continues.
One of the arguments from Tim was you didn't see Rome paying any part of Griffiths.
Oh, that's not true. They do pay a part of Griffiths. They plow the roads at Griffiths. They take care of the water at Griffiths. I mean, those buildings. We have the airport. That's our responsibility. The GLDC operates the property issues.
Yep.
But the city has. That's not at all accurate. The city does, maintain, the water infrastructure and some of the roads at Griffiths and public safety at Griffiths. So there's all of those different pieces there. That's just not not true.
County executive, we've been all over the place, and I kind of think that's usually productive. So we appreciate it.
So okay.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
We didn't fight. I know people wanted us to fight, throw punches or something, and it didn't happen. We'll have to wait for the next time. I'm not a good puncher, so I don't think it's going to bode well for me.
Despite what people say.
Despite what they say. Yeah, that's true.